certain things matter. Like when a people break through the barrier of success.
Så skal der sættes angreb ind, hvis ikke kenyaneren skal vinde. Men det bliver Peter Rono, og så bliver det Peter Elliott. Men altså igen en stor triumf for de kenyanske løbere.
These are well-known moments of achievement, but they also illustrate one of the major sports mysteries of our time.
Og så en sølvmedalje for det forhindringsløb, en tredjeplads for 10.000 meter.
We are really talking about the Kenyan miracle, and that's because they are really so dominant. And every year you'll see the Kenyans up in front after 2 or 3 kilometers. They're just running as a team. And then there's a big gap. And then come the Americans, the Europeans, and so on. And if you take, for example, today, the world ranking list of the best performances ever in the steeplechase, 3 kilometer steeplechase, you'll find that the 13 best ever in the world, they are all Kenyans.
This dominance by a single group of athletes has no equivalent in any other field of sports history. It all starts in one of the most remarkable areas of the world, the Great Rift Valley. A magnificent geological fault that stretches through the savanna and vast rainforests of East Africa. And it's here, in the highlands above the Great Rift, that the Kalenjins live, a group of Kenyan tribes that almost all of the successful runners originate from. There are about 3 million Kalenjins. What puzzles world sports physiologists is this: how can so few people produce so many outstanding runners?
Rift Valley is the home of athletics in Kenya. World record holders, world champions. Sometimes we cannot explain why we have so many athletes from this region.
Go! When they grow up, they can just make us good runners, as these were so famous Kenyans who are running right now, and they can earn a lot in their living.
You know, running has money. When you run, you go to America, you get money.
When they continue running, they find that they have a career in running, and so they become athletes who have professions. And in that case, they have bright futures because of just running, although they may not perform well in class.
The worldwide Kenyan track dominance is the #1 sports mystery. For the first time in a major study, scientists are now examining the various possible reasons for this phenomenon.
Okay.
Okay, you can spin out.
Keep running.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Running. Very good.
Far from the well-beaten tourist track, Eldoret is the main town in the area where the Kalenjins live. It's a busy, rough town, situated about 2,000 meters above sea level. The town is home to a number of the individuals that have made an indelible mark on sports history. It all started at the 1968 Mexico City Olympics.
Så ligger der nu muligheden for at gentage Lasse Gren, en anden guldmedalje til Finland, eller en ny guldsølv til Kenya. Kaino spurter, ingen chance for kanterne til at nå ham, men han kan nå en sølv. Forrygende duel. Lykkes det for Kenya, men ja, det lykkes. Guld og sølv igen til Kenya. Guldet til Kaino.
Kip Keino, a national icon and Eldoret's foremost citizen, won 2 Olympic gold and 2 Olympic silver medals in 1968 and 1972. Samson Kimobwa took the world 10,000 meter record in 1977. After only a few years of training, Japhet Kosgei has won a number of international marathons. Moses Tanui, now one of the world's most renowned marathon winners, has won the World 10,000-meter championship in 1991, as well as in half marathon in 1995.
All the Kenyans are dedicated on their duties, and this has been happening with the athletes. And also the guidance from the old, it's like old is called to us.
Running has become the gateway to wealth. Located between simple domestic huts and the tower blocks of Eldoret's industrialized downtown lays Moses Tanui's mansion. It's a large, multi-million-dollar villa designed by an English architect and built in the Mediterranean style.
Athletics needs a lot of discipline. Since I don't take alcohol, I don't take wine, I don't take anything. I only concentrate on athletics, and this is what is keeping me up to today.
The University Hospital in Eldoret serves as the base for the international research team leading the detective work. Here, under controlled conditions, tests are carried out on both elite runners as well as untrained adolescents. The instigator of the project is the world-leading Swedish physiologist and head of the Copenhagen Muscle Research Center in Denmark, Professor Bengt Saltin.
If you are interested in running, of course you would like to know why the Kenyan runners are the best from middle distance up to long distance, including the marathon. So the only way to find out is to go there and study them.
The leader of the Kenyan group is Professor Jonathan Nshaho from the Eldoret University.
If we can find the good reasons why the Kenyans are so good, then the Kenyans can consolidate so that they can remain good. And the non-Kenyans can learn some lessons from what is making the Kenyans so good.
The Danish research leader in Kenya is physiologist and former national athletics coach Henrik Larsson.
There can be many reasons for the Kenyan superiority in running compared to the rest of the world. It can be genetics, it can be sociological reasons, it can be the food, it can be the fact that they live and train 2,000 meters above sea level, and maybe other reasons that we don't know of until now.
Okay. This is fine, Martin. Don't hit the box. Move a little bit backward.
The scientists examine physiological function amongst members of the Kalenjin tribes.
We have brought to Kenya a treadmill, and then we can measure on the treadmill their oxygen uptake. That is the, say, classical measure of aerobic capacity, which is a factor for endurance running.
In a car engine, it's the amount of fuel burnt that determines how quickly it can run. In the human engine, it's the amount of oxygen consumed that determines the engine's capacity. It's the red blood cells that ensure the transport of oxygen to the body cells. The oxygen is transferred via the thinnest blood vessels to the muscles that work when we run. In order to get valid scientific results from the study of the Kenyan runners, exactly the same tests are performed on a similar group of Danish elite runners and untrained boys in Copenhagen.
Forskellen på kenianere og også måske er, at de synes sgu mere om det, end vi gør, tror jeg. De træner altså benhårdt. Det er en eller anden livsstil for dem. Ikke fordi jeg ikke synes, det er en livsstil for mig, men jeg har ikke den samme glæde, tror jeg. Kan jeg fornemme i hvert fald.
22 km i timen, 166.
For decades, a number of possible reasons have been suggested as to why the Kenyans have come to dominate middle and long-distance running, such as living at high altitude, training from childhood, or perhaps even diet. In Eldoret, the research team has decided to scientifically test the validity of these assumptions.
This is when it is green like this. It is good and very sweet when we eat it. When it is dried, we can grind it in machine and then make porridge or ugali.
Ugali. Ugali is the best food, and kidheri. Kidheri is maize mixed with beans. That is the best food to eat in order to run because carbohydrates and energy.
The basic food that they eat really is based on a cereal called maize. Maize has got a very high energy content, and they eat a lot of traditional vegetables. So you'll find that the diet as such is not very high in fats, but it is just adequate in energy and adequate in protein.
The diet is very important for us. For example, we have fresh food, many from the farm, but the most important one is milk. That is most of our runners drink before they run, and sometimes it is very strong because our milk is not through the factory. It is fresh milk from the cow.
One reason for the Kenyan success could be their diet intake. And for that reason, I went to Kenya and stayed at a secondary school.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I wrote down exactly the diet intake for 2 weeks and took home the diet and had it analyzed in a laboratory. Many people think that the diet is a crucial factor in the Kenyan success. But my study shows that there's no evidence to indicate that this diet intake is the reason why the Kenyan runners are running so fast.
Another factor that is often considered to play a major role in the running phenomenon mystery is the theory that the Kenyans are from an early age more physically active than other runners.
Many of our schools are far away. And in many cases, the children must run very early in the morning to school and run during lunch hour for lunch and then back.
You see young children walking to school 8 or 10 miles a day, back and forth, and then maybe running. And so it starts at an early age. In the United States, people nowadays, they drive everywhere. And the only walking you might get is in a mall or a shopping center. So it's, our athletes aren't doing as well.
Anything for the back? Everything's okay?
Some of the athletes walk very many distance. Even the people here walk very long distance on foot. You could get somebody walking 20 kilometers because we do not have very good network of roads.
In order to examine if the fact that Kenyans run and walk a lot influences their ability at elite level, the scientists compare total physical activity amongst Danish and Kenyan boys.
We looked into that question and find out that they were living quite close to school. At average, they were living between 2 and 2.5 kilometers from school in the primary school, and even they were living closer in the secondary school. A lot of the women were even sleeping at the secondary school. So altogether, when we compare the Kenyan boys with the Danish boys, they are moving the same amount, and even some of the Danish boys are moving more around as children than the Kenyans. So it's definitely not the daily activities as children that can explain the dominance of athletes coming from Kenya. And it can also be seen if you look at the fitness. That means the maximum oxygen uptake when they're untrained. It's even higher in the Danish boys, or at the same level.
It's a well-established fact among sports experts that living at high altitude, as the Kalenjins do, influences human physiology. The thin air makes the body produce a number of extra oxygen-transporting blood cells, and elite athletes the world over choose to live in specially built low-pressure chambers in an attempt to duplicate this effect.
Eyes up, knees up, knees up.
The altitude being very important has been fought since the 1968 the Olympic Games was kept in Mexico City. And there was a dominance of athletes coming from high altitude area. And since it has been used to increase the level in endurance. But in fact, if you want to compete at sea level, then it's better to train at sea level. You can train with a much higher intensity at sea level than you can at high altitude. So for the Kenyans, it's detrimental, in fact, to live at that altitude. You can also see it when Kenyans are coming to Europe or staying several months in Europe, they even become better. If you live at a reasonable high altitude and then train at sea level, then it could be an advantage because then you increase your red blood cell amount. But this is not the case. They're both living and training at high altitude, and that's a problem.
Knees up, good luck.
So we can conclude that definitely not the altitude.
Knees up, knees up.
We invite everybody from anywhere else so that they don't say that here we have secret. We don't have any secret. It's through hard work, determination, and patient. You have to be patient yourself, except to win, except to lose. So I would say hard work is the key thing.
The hard work plays a very important part because they are very determined. Yeah? Even when they feel a lot of pain, they will continue with training. And we know sometimes when somebody does something with and it pains, sometimes it will pay in future.
Fine, not too close.
Perfect running. Good.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you very much.
There exists a lot of anecdotes telling that the Kenyans and especially the Kalenjians are mentally stronger compared to other people. But based on our data on maximal heart rate and blood lactate following a maximal treadmill test or during a 5,000 meter competition, there's no indication at all that the Kenyans should be mentally stronger.
Virkelig godt. Det ved. Virkelig godt, Jannik. Vi ved her. Det er godt. Vi ved nu her, Jannik.
Er det god? 1.06.
Vi ved, den stiger stadigvæk, Jannik. Du slipper du ikke.
Du husk at holde ham op, når du ikke kan mere.
Lidt frem igen. Det kan du godt her. Lidt frem igen. Lidt frem igen.
Højre arm op, når du ikke kan.
Lidt frem igen. Sådan.
Det ved.
Og stop.
Okay, vi holder. Stærkt.
Following the max test, the Danish boys had a peak heart rate 5 beats higher compared to the Kenyans, and the blood lactate level reached a peak 25% higher than the Kenyan boys did. It indicates that the Kenyans are not pushing themselves harder compared to the Danish boys.
Several months of studies later, and all the test results are still negative. None of the commonly held assumptions concerning Kenyan athletic superiority prove to be correct. And still, everywhere they run, they win. It's 5:30 in the morning. On a dusty road leading through the Kenyan highlands, the elite runners from the Fila camp are getting ready. It's the first training session of the day, a 25-kilometer run, 7 days a week, all year round, in order to stay fit. For sport manufacturers such as Puma, Nike or Fila, Kenyan running has become big business. From their own camps around Eldoret, they train young hopefuls who bear their promoters' names. Amongst this group are some of the fastest marathon runners in the world.
I started serious training in 1995 and I was invited to join the Villa group. My first race outside Kenya was in 1998 in Rome.
In Rome?
Yeah.
So how did it go?
I ran 2:12, fifth position. Then after that I went to Mexico in August 98 and won. In December I won Cancun Marathon. I went to Rotterdam 1999. I ran my fastest time 2:07.41. The most important thing in training is to enjoy. You have to be jovial, to be happy always. That's how I normally do my training, happily. I enjoy being together with my friends.
To be discovered as a talented runner is a dream come true. For people that can hardly afford a bus ticket to Nairobi, it's a gateway to an entirely new way of life. St. Patrick's High School has produced the largest number of world-class runners, and all of them have planted a tree in the schoolyard.
It's been kind of a tradition thing, so people, they believe in that thing. Even if they are not good, they believe in it, they are good. And this, I think, this is something has been going for many years.
Den er helt fin for Wilson Kipketer, og så kommer Wilson Kipketer, Wilson Kipketer bliver verdensmester for anden gang. Men jeg har aldrig set Wilson Kipketer give så meget snor. Så skal vi have hans fabelagtige spurt her til sidst. Kom nu, bid tænderne sammen. Nej, det er slet ikke den Wilson, vi kender. Og så slår han til. Så kommer han. Var det godt kæmpet, Wilson. Strålende, Wilson Kipketer. Kom så, Wilson. Ja! Kom! Og alt har han givet. Alt skal han i kampen her med CP for Sydafrika.
For Wilson Kipketer, as well as a number of other students, the training field at St. Patrick's has been the starting point for a meteoric worldwide career in long-distance running.
This is the place where we were in 1990 when the Swedish national team were here, and then we realized that there was a 4x2 kilometer cross-country running going on, and there was different teams coming in from different secondary schools, and there was Marquette High School and St. Patrick's High School, among others. And then the four top Swedish runners thought it may be funny to take part in this race, and they had four, on that time, really top European runners competing in this 4x2 kilometer relay. And they finished actually fourth in this competition, far behind the school from Marquette, and a few seconds behind the two teams from St. Patrick's High School. And among the runners was Wilson Kipketer. He was on St. Patrick's second team.
Shortly after graduating, Kipketer emigrated to Denmark, and during 1997 he broke the world 800-meter record on no less than 5 occasions.
From a physiological point of view, it was very interesting when we measured Wilson Kipketer in Kenya in 1990 to realize that he had actually a very low aerobic fitness level. He was almost untrained, but even though he was not training hard on that time, he was still able to beat the very best Swedish senior runners. But it was also amazing that Wilson was actually not the best from St. Patrick's High School on that time.
Yeah, I remember the race because it was a little bit, more exciting for me to run with, also with people from Europe. And then so I was thinking, I was not that special, but I got a chance to be in the team with the relay because I think the best of the school, they were not there, and then so they put me in. And so for me, I think so that was, I cannot forget the victory, when you win something, and then when you are still young, it was more like I moved to another level.
In the search for more clues in the attempt to discover the secret of Kalenjian's mysterious and extraordinary abilities, the scientists make a deal with one of the world's leading marathon runners, Jafet Kozge, at his home in Eldoret.
We would like to make a few recordings for you with portable equipment.
Okay.
It's only weighing 600 grams.
600 grams?
Yeah, and you don't have to run much.
Okay.
What's your best time in marathon?
2:07 in Rotterdam.
Rotterdam? Oh, it's a fast course as well.
Yeah.
How many years have you been training?
For fourth year. It's a 4.5 now. Yeah.
What did you do before that?
No, I did nothing.
Nothing?
Just at home. Just
Is that right? Yeah. What in secondary school? Did you train there? Or?
No, I didn't train in secondary
You didn't train?
school. I didn't train.
Yeah. How was you discovered then? Or did you want to race, or did you start it?
When I started?
Yeah.
My first race was when I ran 62 half marathon.
You ran 102 centimeter above sea level in your first race?
Yeah, my first race, yeah. And,
that's really fantastic after only 1 year of training. And I think it's faster than any Scandinavian runner has ever been running. So even if we get a lot of that kind of stories, it's amazing every time we meet them.
Using an advanced portable computer unit, the scientists can measure bodily functions during actual road running. With Jafet Kosgei's help, Henrik Larsen tests to see if there is anything about Kosgei's running efficiency that can shed new light on the mystery.
Is it okay?
Yes, okay.
Not too tight? Is this the right size for you?
Yeah.
I want to know how much oxygen he consumes per kilo of body weight per minute. That'll tell me something about his running efficiency. Så er spørgsmålet, om de løber i samme gruppe. Det er helt tydeligt, at de har meget afslappet løbestil. Utrolig effektivt.
Danish elite runners, such as national 5,000-meter record holder Dennis Jensen, are being tested for running efficiency using the same methods.
Det er godt, Dennis. En omgang.
Running economy can be compared to the difference between two cars that manage to drive different distances using equally powerful engines whilst expending the same amount of fuel. In the running tests, the Kenyans have shown a 10% better result than the Danes.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Press the red button. What's your heart rate? 145. It's easy. 134. And 156.
After having assembled large amounts of data from Kenyan and Danish runners, the results are brought back to the Muscle Center in Copenhagen for analysis. After processing the information, the computers suddenly display a number of interesting facts.
We found that they had a very high maximal oxygen uptake, but not higher than what we have been finding until now in Scandinavians. Among the very best Kenyan elite runners, we found that they have a better running economy, and that means that they use less energy to run a certain distance. That's one of the things that we are going to study further.
They are not running. Are you running?
A Sunday morning in January. For the sports manufacturing companies looking for the next generation of gold medalists, Eldoret is the place to be. And running now offers anyone with the required talent, regardless of their social position, an opportunity to fundamentally change their way of life. Today, the Italian company Fila has arranged a running competition as part of its region-wide talent spotting program, and they come in their thousands, competing in all age categories. Running in skirts, running barefoot, all sharing the same deep desire to be chosen. The ones who choose are white men, with a tremendous power to change lives.
When I was in Kenya 10 years ago, I started to be coach of Moses Tanu 10 years ago. And I have seen that it's possible to select many athletes that stay out far from the main city. So I decided with Moses to organize these events that is called Discovery to help the young to improve and to be international runner.
Anamaliza mbio hizo sawa sawa kabisa huyu kijana akiwa amejishindia mbio ya siku ya leo.
When I joined Fila in 91, I was keen that they will do something in Kenya. And what I talked with Dr. Rosa, and he accepted that we will organize 2 races, that is this cross-country and the half marathon, because the Kenyan runners were running only up to 10,000 meters, but we introduce also half marathon so that they can run marathon.
feel, I think it's discovering that there is something here, you know, there is something, there is some gold hidden around here, and they're coming up. They are providing the infrastructure right now, like to have this race, which is it's their sponsorship. But I think the talent is something that is eminent, it's there. You know? It's got nothing to do with the fact that somebody is investing on it.
Come on, St. Patrick's.
You can be a good runner if your genetic is a good genetic. In Kenya, it's very easy to have a good genetic. I mean, your body is powerful to be a good runner because maybe 2,000 years of selection, the kind of life they are moving around, makes the body of the Kenyan very ready to compete. In white runner, it's not the same.
The results that the children and adults produce in this amateur race are comparable to almost any international competition.
Ham, der var allerførst I starten, han kun 18 år. 400 meter løber, han har løbet 45.06.
The international research team searched for an explanation.
What we wanted to do this time was to study untrained Kenyans and compare them with untrained Danish boys, because then we could say whether the better running economy that we had seen was due to training or due to other factors.
In order to achieve valid scientific results, a specially designed and carefully controlled training program is being set up that is precisely the same for both the Kenyan and the Danish volunteers. For a total of 12 weeks, the boys will undergo a series of exercises, whilst their increasing physical fitness is continuously controlled. The aim is to determine how the two groups respond to a controlled program of identical training.
Træningen er så begyndt I januar, og det var cirka 3 måneders forløb, hvor vi så løb nogle gange om ugen. Vi startede med 2 til 3 gange om ugen, og vi sluttede så på 4 gange om ugen, og det blev hele tiden hårdere, fordi man løber med pulsur, som jeg også har på her. Og den måler så hjertefrekvensen og pulsen, og så skal man så hele tiden ligge, har vi fået at vide af Henrik og Hans, at vi skal ligge inden for et bestemt interval.
This is a heart rate transmitter, and this is a receiver, and this transmitter transmits the data into the receiver while you're running. Okay? In order to make it work, the transmitter, you have to make it wet a little bit.
The pulsometer is a miniature computer built into what looks like a watch,
126 beats per minute.
recording heart rate data via radio signals from the monitor in the rubber chest band.
He's a little bit nervous maybe because he's not used to this. Just slow jogging. It's not a competition.
The aim is to control exertion and ensure equality for all participants. When you run too fast or too slow, heart rate either increases or decreases, and the wrist computer beeps. Using advanced mobile measuring equipment, almost all vital data can be collected during field training. A computer mounted on the runner's chest can record oxygen intake, heart rate changes, carbon dioxide exhalation, etc.
Are you still feeling comfortable? No problem.
The computer also has a powerful radio transmitter that sends the data to a base station located up to 1 kilometer away from the runner.
Close to the right pace.
Here, the run can be transformed into easily comparable figures and graphs.
Now we're getting oxygen uptake, and then we can get the ventilation as well. Very good, Maina.
These guys from Denmark enrolled us in this program, and we were given shorts, running clothes anyway, kits, and then we started by training, running 3 kilometers at a very easy pace first, and then we increased our pace as we continued our training.
A little bit faster! Just a little bit!
Og så udfyldte vi alle sammen nogle spørgeskemaer om vores fysiske aktivitet i barndommen og hvor meget vi laver nu og så videre.
Jeg vil gerne vide, hvordan jeres fysiske aktivitetsniveau er 6 døgn i træk. For at se, hvor meget I rører jer i løbet af dagen og aften i forhold til kenyanerne.
Physical activity outside of the training program is also measured. The participants sometimes have to wear the recording equipment even while sleeping. After 12 weeks, the time has come to compare the two groups' response to the training.
We know exactly they have been training the same because we have controlled with the heart rate monitors, and they have been training. Both group, 99.9% of the training has been conducted, so that is perfect.
Okay.
The exam consists of a 5,000-meter race in which each individual reveals his improved fitness level.
Go! Come on, come on, come on! All up in front. You should be the fastest one. Okay, 11.5 rounds to go.
The difference in running economy is so significant that despite sharing a similar maximum oxygen intake, the Kenyans still ran more than 2 minutes faster than the Danes. And this despite the fact that the Kenyans were running in thin air at an altitude of 2,000 meters, whilst the Danes were running at sea level.
22, 23, 24, 25, 26. If we take the average times, the Kenyan were 2 minutes and 20 seconds faster than the Danish boys, even though they started with the same initial fitness level, and even though they trained and developed their speed during training to the same extent, which means that the trainability, the response to training is similar in the two groups. The Kenyans just start at a higher level because of the superior running economy.
The difference in running economy is so significant that despite sharing a similar maximum oxygen intake, the Kenyans still ran more than 2 minutes faster than the Danes. And this despite the fact that the Kenyans were running in thin air at an altitude of 2,000 meters, whilst the Danes were running at sea level. The mystery deepens. How come the Kenyans are so much quicker? The scientists had found no clues in the Kenyan environment or in the Kenyans' fitness level or training methods to explain this superior running economy.
It must be, in our opinion, an inherited factor, which means that genetics is the major reason for the superior running economy of the Kenyan boys and probably also of the Kenyan elite runners as well.
The search for an answer now leads to a study of genetic traits, and they start with the muscle structure, trying to find something that will give the Kenyans an advantage.
The muscles on the leg, they are important, so we are very interested in evaluating what the muscle looks like in regard to muscle fiber composition and the quality, and also the machinery in the muscle where the oxygen is utilized.
Det gør ikke sådan rigtig ondt, det er bare ubehageligt. Altså det er sådan et ubehag, ligesom at få mast en finger ind, og så er den bare inde i musklen i stedet for.
By taking small samples of muscle tissue from both Kenyan as well as Danish runners, the scientists are able to compare the amount of different types of muscle fibers and enzymes.
Ja, fint. Kan du hålla det? Fint.
In order to preserve all their properties for further studies, the muscle samples are immediately deep frozen in liquid nitrogen, One hypothesis that could explain the Kenyan capacity for endurance running is that the Kenyans have a greater number of so-called slow fibers in their muscle structure.
It's okay?
Yeah, it's okay.
So will that not affect us any?
No, the amount of muscle we take out, it's 100 or 200 milligrams.
Okay.
And the total muscle mass is around 3 kilos.
In the Copenhagen lab, the muscle samples are taken out and prepared for a study under the microscope. The sample is being sliced in a high-precision cutting machine. Every slice is thinner than a single hair. The slice is then dyed in order to visually separate the different muscle fibers.
This is how a muscle biopsy would look if taken from a non-athlete. And as you can see, there is a number of slow fibers, the dark staining ones here. There's also a number of fast fibers, which are the white non-staining fibers. But there's also a large number of gray fibers, which are also fast. These are very fast fibers. Okay, so what you see here is a muscle biopsy from an extremely well-trained endurance athlete. This person has an extreme amount of slow fibers compared to the amount of fast fibers here. He has more than 90% slow fibers, which makes him very suitable for endurance type work. This particular biopsy is actually obtained from a Kenyan boy, and as we can see here, it looks as any other biopsy, and it has a fair distribution of slow and fast fibers. And on average, the Kenyan boys would have a fiber type composition that is very comparable to a normal European boy of the same age.
Since there were no clues in the muscle fiber composition, the next step is to investigate whether the muscle enzymes differ. Certain enzymes play an important role in muscle performance. But this attempt fails as well. The diagrams show no difference at all.
This is the one, you can feel it.
Yes.
And then you stand as a soldier. Okay. Feet together.
But there are also more obvious physical traits to compare. Whilst in Kenya, the scientists have the idea that maybe leg length has a role to play. And at last, they have found a clear difference.
Yes.
Despite the fact that Danish youths are on average 5 centimeters taller, measurements showed that the Kenyan youths had legs that were on average 2 centimeters longer. Through the use of a specially designed computer program, it's possible to study whether there is a statistical relationship between leg length and speed on the running track. The result is a graph that on the one axis shows energy cost and on the other leg length. The measurements are processed to establish whether there is a connection between the two. The figures at the bottom of the screen show the result, which is so low that it proves that there is no relationship. The research team is running out of ideas. Is this an unsolvable mystery?
Five, okay. From the Fila camp.
The time has come for more educated guesswork. For some time, Henrik Larsen had been thinking about something he had come across whilst working on another project.
We knew from other studies that if you place, for example, 50 grams of weight around the ankle, then you increase your oxygen consumption with 1%. So it's very expensive to put on weight around the ankle. And we know the more distally the weight is placed on the leg, the more oxygen cost is registered. So therefore we started to compare the volume of the lower leg between the Kenyan and the Danish boys.
Okay. With the help of a foot-shaped waterproof plastic box, they once again measured the legs of the two test groups.
Stop. Please put your foot into the water. Maybe a little bit cold, but it's not taking long. 2.9. You are having the smallest foot volume for today until now. You are number 12 we have been measuring.
They continue with the elite runners, like marathon champion Jafet Kozgay.
Okay. Right with you. Yeah, okay. And then we measure the whole lower leg volume. Okay. Thank you very much. The amazing thing with this measurement is that Jafet has got really slender legs. You can see the mass of the lower leg is very low, which means that he probably has got a very efficient running style, very skilled running, and the fraction of the energy for moving the limbs is very low.
Here there is also an obvious difference between the Kenyans and the Danes. But how could the structure of the lower leg possibly be the key to the Kenyan running phenomenon? In Copenhagen, the water tank data is being processed and fed into the computers employing the same computer program used for the leg length study. And suddenly, a new, clear pattern appears on the screen.
The most exciting physiological finding was that the good running economy seemed to be due to the fact that the Kenyans had more slender legs compared to the Danish boys. And if you look at this graph, we can see that there is a relationship between the cross-sectional area of the lower leg and the oxygen consumption.
Excitement grew amongst the researchers as the picture emerged. The Kenyan results are on the left of the graph, the Danish are on the right. The probability that there is a clear relationship between leg thickness and running economy is overwhelming. The groups overlap each other in the middle. This means that Kenyan and Danish boys, having the same leg dimensions, also have the same talent for running.
It was much simpler than we thought. It is all about the legs and the shape of the legs of these Kenyan runners. They are long and slender with very low mass, and that means that they have a good running economy.
You need to have this structure, this form of legs. And that's not unique. You have a high concentration in this area, which we have been looking at. You might have other high concentration elsewhere in the world, where you not have the tradition for running and so on. So if you have the body shape among a Danish runner or Scandinavian runner, then he will have the same possibility for run with such a good running economy. But you have to emphasize that training cannot influence the leg volume. You need to have it from the beginning.
If I have to express this in a popular way, I would say that you cannot, by training, change a donkey and make it a racehorse. You can make it a fast donkey. And I'm not saying with this that we have only got donkeys in Denmark, but there are definitely very few racehorses.
Kenya today is a poor country with severe health and social problems. Here, a professional running career is the dream for many and a rescue for a few. Kenya's first gold medalist, Kip Keino, is also Kenya's most respected man.
You find out how much you have received and how much you have paid out.
His fame has enabled him and his wife Phyllis to establish a school and an orphanage on the outskirts of Eldoret.
We started the children home a long time ago, and we have been having orphan children mainly to provide them a shelter and where to live, what to wear, and the most important part of it is education.
When Kip Keino was at his peak, one didn't get rich from running, one became famous. He has used his fame to raise funds for the school and the orphanage.
Well, in this world, we came to this world with nothing and we live with nothing. Mostly the kids I have, they are no father, no mother, and I feel that they need that assistance to live like they have parents. We have 86 at home at this moment, but we provide them the education they need of today. And then when they are over 18, they belong to our society. And they can be able to live like any other family with their parents. So I'm the father, my wife is the mother.
Some people would say, oh, it's a way out. It's not a way out at all. It's a way back in for the community because these people don't leave. I mean, some of these athletes that have gained success financially could possibly live in other parts of the world, but they choose to come back home. Kenya is their home. And when I come and back and forth, or if I see the athletes in Europe or in the United States competing, Jim, when are you coming back home to Kenya? We miss you. And I miss them. And you miss Kenya.
We shall be also in a position now to work extra hard. If we can tell the upcoming athletes, ABCD, this is what has been discovered, and we want to improve further, it will encourage them. It will very, very much encourage many, many of our athletes.
Oh,